The rain hammered down on the streets of Manhattan as Marcus Chen stepped out of his Rolls-Royce, his $1,000 shoes splashing in a puddle. At 32, he was worth $4.3 billion. But tonight, none of that mattered, because there, huddled against the wall of his favorite coffee shop, was a young woman who would change everything. She couldn't have been more than 23, wrapped in a thin, torn jacket that did nothing against the freezing November rain. Her long braids were soaked, her lips blue from the cold. But it wasn't her circumstances that stopped Marcus in his tracks, it was her eyes. Even through the exhaustion and hunger, they burned with something he hadn't seen in years: determination, hope, life. "Please," she whispered, holding out a paper cup with shaking hands. "Anything helps." Marcus had walked past 1,000 people asking for help. His security team was trained to shield him from these moments. But tonight, something was different. Maybe it was the way she looked at him, not with desperation, but with dignity. Maybe it was the sketchbook clutched under her arm, protected from the rain like it was worth more than gold. He knelt down, ignoring his bodyguard's protests, and looked her in the eyes. "What's your name?" "Aaliyah," she said softly. "Aaliyah, when's the last time you ate?" She hesitated. 2 days. Those 2 words would haunt Marcus Chen for the rest of his life. Because in that moment, he made a decision that would cost him everything and give him everything back. "Come with me," Marcus said, standing and extending his hand. Aaliyah pulled back. I can't. "I'm not asking for anything," Marcus interrupted gently. "I just want to buy you dinner. That's all. You can leave whenever you want." Something in his voice, maybe the sincerity, maybe the sadness, made Aaliyah take his hand. 2 hours later, they sat in a small diner, not one of Marcus's usual 5-star restaurants. Aaliyah had insisted she felt out of place anywhere fancy. Marcus watched as she ate slowly, deliberately, like someone who'd learned not to waste a single bite. "How long?" he asked quietly. 6 months on the streets. A year before that in shelters. She didn't look up from her plate. "I had a scholarship to Parsons School of Design. Full ride. I was going to be a fashion designer." "What happened?" Aaliyah's hands stopped moving. "My mom got sick. Cancer. I dropped out to take care of her. Worked 3 jobs to pay for treatments insurance wouldn't cover. When she died, I had nothing. No job, no school, no apartment. I fell through every crack in the system." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. His own mother had died of cancer when he was 16. It's what had driven him to build his empire, a desperate need to never feel powerless again. "What's in the sketchbook?" he asked. For the first time, Aaliyah smiled. "My designs. Everything I still want to create." "Are you insane?" Marcus's business partner, David, slammed his hands on the conference table. "You want to invest $2 million in a homeless girl with no business experience?" "She has talent," Marcus said calmly. "Real talent. I'm launching a new fashion line, and she's going to design it." The boardroom erupted. For 3 hours, his executives argued, threatened, some even quit on the spot. But Marcus had made up his mind. He gave Aaliyah an apartment, a studio, and resources. Not charity and investment. She would design a collection, and if it succeeded, she'd get equity in his fashion division. If it failed, she owed him nothing. But the real battle wasn't in the boardroom. It was in the media. "Billionaire's new toy," read one headline. "Poor little pretty thing. Marcus Chen's latest acquisition," said another. The social media attacks were vicious. People accused him of exploitation, of using Aaliyah for publicity, of worse. Aaliyah wanted to quit. "I'm destroying your reputation," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Let me tell you something about reputation," Marcus said. "I built mine by making money for people who already had money. Maybe it's time I build something that actually matters." But the pressure got worse. Investors threatened to pull out. His company's stock dropped 15%. His own father, the man who'd built the foundation of the Chen Empire, called him a fool. Then came the anonymous letter. Someone had dug into Aaliyah's past and found her arrest record 3 years ago. She'd been caught shoplifting food when she and her mother were homeless the first time. The tabloids would publish it in 2 days. "It's over," Aaliyah said. "I'm poison to your brand." Marcus looked at her design sketches spread across the studio, bold, innovative, raw with emotion and truth. He thought about the girl in the rain who'd guarded her sketchbook like a sacred text. "Then we'll burn my brand down and build a new one from the ashes," he said. Fashion Week, the most important night of Marcus's professional gamble. Backstage was chaos. Half their models had pulled out under pressure from other designers. The fashion critics had pre-written their scathing reviews. The industry had decided to make an example of Marcus Chen and his vanity project. Aaliyah stood frozen, unable to move. "I can't do this," she whispered. "Look at them. They want us to fail." Marcus took her hands. "You know what I saw that night in the rain? Someone who'd lost everything but kept drawing, kept dreaming, kept fighting. That's not weakness, Aaliyah. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. What if it's not enough? Then we fail beautifully." The lights dimmed. Music started. The first model walked. The collection was called Invisible, every piece designed to tell the story of people society doesn't see. Homeless veterans, single mothers, immigrants. Every outfit started rough, torn, desperate, then transformed into something breathtaking. It was fashion as protest, as dignity as revolution. By the third piece, the audience had gone silent. By the 10th, people were crying. By the finale, they were on their feet. 3 days later, every piece had sold. Pre-orders crashed their website. Major retailers were in a bidding war. Celebrities were fighting to wear her designs. But the real victory came in a letter. It was from a teenager in Detroit who'd been homeless, who'd seen Aaliyah's story, who'd kept her own notebook of drawings. "You made me visible," she wrote. "You made me believe I matter." Aaliyah framed that letter in her office. Worth more than any profit. 2 years later, Marcus and Aaliyah stood outside that same coffee shop where they'd met. Her fashion line had generated $200 million in revenue. She'd started a foundation that gave scholarships and support to homeless youth pursuing art and design. She'd been featured in Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People. "You changed my life," Aaliyah said. Marcus shook his head. "You changed mine. I spent 15 years building an empire that meant nothing. You reminded me what matters." "So what now?" Marcus smiled and pulled out a small box. Inside was a key. "This is to your new headquarters. 50,000 square feet. Fully funded. You're CEO. I'm just an investor now." Aaliyah stared at the key, then at Marcus. "Why?" "Because you were never mine to save, Aaliyah. You saved yourself. I just held the door open." She laughed through tears. "That's the most expensive door in history. Worth every penny." As they walked away, a young man approached, holding out a cup, asking for change. Aaliyah stopped, knelt down, and asked him his name. Marcus watched her talk to him, saw her pull out a business card, offer him a meal and a conversation. He saw the cycle beginning again. Sometimes the most powerful thing a billionaire can do isn't build an empire. It's recognize the empire someone else is building in their heart, even when the whole world refuses to see it. Sometimes seeing someone is the most revolutionary act of all. The end.